School Revolution is available in stores right now. Please welcome Dr. Ron Paul. Did you recognize your theme song? War. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So, government shutdown looming. Is it going to happen?
I don't believe so. No, people want it open. They want their goodies. Everybody has something they're getting from government, so I don't think the politicians will let it close down. They'll fight, fuss and fume up until last minute, and then something will happen.
Now, this debt ceiling crisis, it seems to be tied to legislation. Is that a new tactic?
No, I don't think so. They've done that behind the scenes. It's rarely a clean bill in Washington. This one won't be either. They'll argue and fuss about it, but somebody's special interest will be protected, and the people who work for a living and pay the taxes, that special interest will be ignored.
Yeah. Now, I know you don't support Obamacare. How about Social Security?
Well, it wasn't a good idea. It's broke. So people should be prepared for that day when the checks will come, but they will bounce and that they won't buy anything, because we will have people on Social Security right now having a tough time. They don't keep up with the cost of living.
Right.
So the value of the dollar goes down, prices go up, cost of living, they can't keep up. That'll get much worse. So you should have an alternative. So it was a good idea in the sense it got a lot of votes, but it's not a good idea long term, and long term is here now, and that's why people have to think about it.
Well, here's a question I've always wanted to ask you. Was Franklin Delano Roosevelt a good president?
No.
No.
I don't think so. But because, he had the greatest part of Roosevelt was in 1932, he ran on a balanced budget, low taxes, the gold standard, staying, don't get involved overseas. But then he did exactly the opposite, because the intellectual climate at that time was to do exactly the opposite. And so then we moved into the age of welfareism and socialism and big government and printing money and fighting wars and all these kind of things.
Well, we had no choice really in World War II, did we?
No, not really, but World War II is just a continuation of World War I. I mean, the problems really started there. The Versailles Treaty is what gave us World War II.
Okay.
So if you want to look for the culprit, you have to go back to Woodrow Wilson. He was the one that said, let's make the world safe for democracy. And we've been doing that. And that's the same argument we've been using to go to the Middle East. That we're great people. We can go over and impose our will and make everybody live like we do and tell them what to do. And it doesn't work. It's sort of a Jacobinism of the French variety. I don't think it's a good idea at all. I think we have endless wars and tragedies come of it.
Let's bring it closer to home. Gun violence here in America, it gets crazier and crazier. How do you solve this?
Well, you've got to punish people who do any damage, with guns.
But you have this incident of this guy in the Navy shipyard. Here's a guy crying out for help, essentially at some point, telling people he's hearing voices. Yet he's given government the highest security. He gets in there with a weapon. How do you stop that?
Well, it shows you the government's not very good at it. It was in the government property. They had all stuff. It wouldn't help in your house. They're not going to do it to your house. It's not going to happen in most people in Texas homes wouldn't be invaded like that, because they know what would happen.
I understand what you're saying, but well, how about, are you for stricter background checks? People that have mental problems should not be allowed to get guns?
Well, not if it's an excuse for government to use the NSA to know every single thing about everybody from cradle to grave, which they have now. I don't think that's the solution. If I thought it would be a solution, maybe we could do it. It wouldn't solve the problem. You have to do whatever you can. But when you consider the number of deaths we have on our highways, and that's a government-run operation, there's a lot more, there's plenty of deaths.
But the government came in with airbags and seatbelts. You're at a tenth of what it would be. I mean, I see cars smashed up like a ball on the freeway with people on the cell phone calling, I got in an accident. Accidents that would have killed me when I was in high school, you walk away from now. So there, the government actually did a good job.
That's assuming that free people would never advance and use a seatbelt. I mean, do you think people do things only because the government tells us to do?
Sure they do. Because I come from Massachusetts, where when Dukakis ran, Massachusetts said, we're not going to wear seatbelts. And they voted to ban make it, the law could not force you to wear a seatbelt.
Well, I happen to believe in voluntarism. I don't like authoritarianism because that gives you the authority, the government, to tell you how to live, how you want to run your personal life, your own sexual life, to tell you what you believe in. I don't know what I thought of
See, I like you at one extreme, and I always find something in the middle. I think there's a middle ground here. Now, let's talk about...
You're doing well.
Let's talk about 2016. Will your son Rand, do you think he'll run for president?
I've never talked to him about it.
It's the truth. Dad passed the potatoes?
Presidential candidate, that's all.
What advice would you give him?
I would say be very cautious. You could get elected.
Yeah.
You know, that's
That's
the risk of running for politics.
Is he a Tea Party guy?
I think so. I think when he ran for the Senate, he sort of surprised me, and he did do it with a serious consultation with me, and I didn't think he would do that well. He did exceptionally well, but most of the grassroots organization came from Tea Party groups. That meant people who were sick and tired of both parties because they didn't trust either party, and there were people who were sick and tired of big government spending and all the debt. So he went to those meetings, and then he also went to the Republican meetings, but he told me the size of the non-partisan group much, much bigger.
Yeah.
Parties aren't very popular these days.
What do you think of Ted Cruz?
Well, I think he's doing a good job, but, you know, I don't know enough about him to say, well, you know, I think I endorse everything he stands for. I don't think he's been there long enough, so I have a few questions, but I think he's has done a good job.
Who do you think will get the Republican nomination?
Well, probably somebody who lives in Texas. I mean, he used to live in Texas, lives in Kentucky now. He'll probably end up getting it. Who knows?
Oh, you think so? You think you could... Now, your son seems to be getting more moderate to me. As I watch the shows, he seems to be going on... a couple of weeks ago, I saw him sort of praising President Obama for something he did, and I went, oh, it looks like he's moving more...
Now, if I call him a moderate, I'll destroy his political career.
Well,
But then again, I on occasion, more recently, actually have said something reasonably good about our president. I love the idea about the president is willing, or at least implying that he's willing to talk to the Iranians. I think it's fantastic. I think the president was very good that he responded to the American people and said, hey, maybe I better think this over. Maybe I should start a new war in Libya and Syria.
Well, he's the first president in recent memory to go to Congress.
No, the Bushes did, but it was real token. They said they didn't have to, but they do.
Tell us about, I read this. It's I don't agree with everything in it, but I like the way you think, and it opened my... I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Tell us what the book is about.
Well, the book is to expose the public school system, but it doesn't need much of exposure because every place I go, most people aren't really happy and bragging about our school system. Everybody knows about the testing that is done and it's so poor. And I offer in here a solution in that going outside the system, and a certain number of people will be willing to teach their children at home. It's homeschooling, and it actually presents the case for the freedom philosophy, you know, that I have been working on for a few years. And the curriculum that is advised would be related to that. A different approach to history, a different approach to economics. You know, in our economics course, we wouldn't be teaching the great value of the Federal Reserve System, for instance. You know, we would be challenging it. Things that have different foreign policy and different perspective on history.
Well, I found it really interesting. Dr. It's always a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You've got to sign my copy of the book. Be right back. A little Big Town right after this.